And to that point, that's kind of a flex.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
like
it's like, oh, you just want me to, like, my beautiful self to
like,
look
oh my
good
God,
and I get paid for it?
Right.
Right.
But then extend that, right? 'Cause I also know agencies that do the next level of that, where they're flying out women to Dubai, and they're getting shat on and jerking off camels and shit.
Oh wow, that's trigger warning.
Would you?
Jesus Christ.
Did that at the beginning. Man.
I'm just saying, I'm triggered. No, I'm triggered.
Like for me,
like, oh my God, those words are salting my ears.
Would you jerk off a camel for 50 grand?
Jesus Christ, no.
See, I would.
No.
Y'all are marketing to the wrong people. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Intellectual Podcast, where we're just putting a little dash of nuance to the polarizing conversations of the internet. I'm Jem.
And I'm Renee.
And we're your hosts for today when we're talking about something actually polarizing. We're episode 2 of this feminism conversation. Not coming off of the Barbie movie or anything, but just feminism in a nutshell. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I think definitely kind of going into a different aspect of like topic of conversation, like under like the feminist umbrella and like discourse that people have, and that being the commodification of women's bodies, which is dun dun dun
very intense,
very daunting, and incredibly pervasive in our society, which is really scary for me specifically as a woman. But I think will be a cool conversation to kind of dive into. I know that this is something that, from like just a sense as a woman, I have some understanding of, but really like through like doing my own like research for this episode, just kind of seeing all the notes that, you know, it kind of covers in this subject.
Its tendrils sink into so many aspects of our society.
Yes, exactly.
Which I say that in a very sinister way.
Right.
But it's not necessarily sinister as it is like oftentimes interesting.
Yeah.
But there is like a more
sinister undertone.
Like there is a sinister undertone to it, which, disclaimer, we're going to be talking about aspects of like sexual abuse and or other triggering topics. So if that is triggering for you, maybe don't listen to the rest of this episode.
Yeah, maybe skip this one. We have some other more lighthearted ones or different topics.
Of course, we have almost 30 episodes for you guys to listen to, which is super cool.
Yes.
On the road to 100.
We got content, y'all.
Yeah, we do. Which is kind of crazy.
Almost too much. We're having storage issues.
Don't get me started. Actually, now that it's over, I can talk about it because, oh my goodness, the last 2 weeks haven't been posted any content because I had a storage system failure. I didn't know that was possible at this. I have 4 terabytes of like a storage drive. It failed on me. I almost lost every bit of information that we have, all the videos I haven't edited, all the episodes that I'm just talking on that we can use for later. Nah, it was gone. It was almost gone. And I was
how scary.
Stressed out. I didn't know I could feel that level of stress.
Yeah.
But I was feeling it and it sucked. But
I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, all's well that ends well, because with my quick thinking and ingenuity, we fixed the problem.
There we go.
It just took almost a month.
Right.
So we'll get back on that Wednesday, hopefully.
Social media posting and all that.
But I also want to mention that most of these classification that we're going to use to talk about this is going to be at a population level. So I understand, Renee, you probably understand that on the individual level, these dynamics operate in a very different way. So what we say is going to be generalities applied to like societies and larger populations.
Yes.
So if you're like in the comments about to be like, well, my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. We're not talking about you and your boyfriend, fam. That's just not what's happening here. So I'm glad you guys are doing well. I wish the best for you, but you're missing the point. So before you type that, don't. Right? Just don't.
For sure.
So, yeah. Should be an interesting episode.
Yeah.
Renee will definitely keep my misogyny in check, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
And we'll just have a fun little thing. Interesting fact about misogyny, actually.
What is going on?
Feminism, like I said. The interesting fact about misogyny, I also did a lot of research for this episode, and because it's so overutilized, right?
What?
Misogyny, like the word.
Okay.
So I was like, what even is like actual misogyny, and why is it relevant? I'm going to look up the definition. Misogyny. Misogyny is kind of funny to me.
Misogyny.
Right? It has like that type of like that word that like
has a ring to it.
It does.
Horrible.
I think the thing that I thought was funny was that in the definition, it also says that misogyny has been practiced for thousands of years. I think that's what I thought was funny.
Why do you find that funny?
It's just kind of funny to me. Like that they had to put that note in like the dictionary definition of it.
Oh, that it has been something. I'm still confused why you think it's funny.
It's a hatred for women. A culture that promotes violence and misogyny against, those are examples. Yeah, a hatred or a contempt for or prejudice against women and or girls. It is a form of sexism that can keep women at a lower social status than men, thus maintaining the social roles of the patriarchy.
Yes. So
misogyny has been widely practiced for thousands of years. I think it's funny because it's true.
Oh, okay.
Like it has been practiced. Like it really has been practiced for thousands of years. But it's also interesting to me because like things that are misogynistic don't naturally imply a strong hatred for women.
Like what? What are you thinking of?
Old time example, like from the Industrial Revolution, like stay-at-home moms, right? Now, an inherently misogynistic premise, but not necessarily like I hate women, stay home. You know?
Right.
There's more to it than just like that blatant over. Like, fuck women.
Right.
Be in the house. Cook my dinner, bitch.
Right.
You know?
There we go.
Like,
yeah. No, yeah, that is true. Yeah. Like the job itself as like a stay-at-home mom is not like misogynistic, but
I think it was more practical than anything. Like someone had to be there.
Right.
For those kids. But
childcare services are expensive.
Are non-existent.
But then also the economy is expensive. So I mean, like
not back then though.
Yeah, no. But as we talk about today though, like I think we even mentioned this in our Barbie episode where today it's harder. Like, yes, this traditional dynamic, blah, 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 people are like, let's go back to the traditional dynamic. But it's harder to do that now just because of how expensive everything is. It's almost like a requirement to have a 2-income household because otherwise you can't live. It's like just harder, you know?
As a man, why can't you provide for your family?
Damn, but also... Sure, totally.
I find this narrative very interesting. But anyways, that's not what we're talking about right now.
No.
Interesting pop culture things that are happening right now in relation to this quote unquote commodification of the female body. Oh my God.
Yes.
Do you hear about the P. Diddy lawsuit that's happening?
Poor girl. No, that is absolutely devastating and really scary.
So no,
super scary.
You have heard of it.
Yes, I have heard of it. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
But please like explain and talk.
Don't really know like the overt details about it. But apparently P. Diddy is misogynistic and if you know anything about P. Diddy, he actually
and also apparently gay, the ultimate misogynist. You hate women so much that you fuck men.
Yeah. That's literally the only way misogyny can go, right?
Yeah.
Like the logic tracks, first of all. But apparently gay, right?
Yeah.
Apparently homosexual.
Allegedly.
Apparently very abusive towards women.
Yeah.
Slave type shit.
Trafficking.
Like trafficking type shit. Locking them up in basements type shit. Very concerning things. And with this newfound, like, you know, ever since the Me Too movement, all this shit's coming out the woodworks.
Yeah.
P. Diddy lasted this long, and then all of a sudden he's getting sued for like $30 million, right? Which to him, whatever. He's a billionaire, not a big deal. But the thing that really shook me to my core is that this dude became a billionaire, music mogul, by owning the rights and music of like literally every notorious rapper of the 90s. Notorious B.I.G., some other pop or some other hip hop group, the girls, I forget what they're called.
Yeah.
A bunch of people. Yeah. And he sold them back their rights to their music, which is something labels never do. That's like career suicide.
Right.
So the fact that he did that is actually like very telling. I don't know what it says. I don't know. But like something's happening within his little...
Oh, like he recently sold back the rights.
Since that lawsuit,
well,
he sold back the rights to like most of the stuff he owns. His discography, I should say.
Oh, because I think a part of it, she apparently did a very smart thing and didn't sue P. Diddy directly, but sued his like company or sued like his, I forget exactly, sued his business.
Right. Def Jam or whatever.
Yeah. So like, I don't know exactly the legal, like I was watching a TikTok video
as always,
as we do, but someone was explaining how like why that was a really smart reason. So I wonder, and to my mind, like trying to put 2 and 2 together, I'm assuming suing company or someone's business for like really, those are wild allegations, right? And seem to be very, very true.
Right.
Suing a company for like claiming like human trafficking, like all these sorts of things, all these very, very abusive things, I would imagine would really affect his money.
Yeah.
So maybe him selling those rights or him trying to get ahead of that like fallout like financially. But
the reason that he's selling is because he doesn't feel like he has a good chance of winning.
Right. Well, apparently they already settled for the $30 million.
Oh, well, there you go.
But I wonder if there's something, like I said, there's probably something going, because with the business, he's not the dictator of his business. There's a board and all those sorts of things. So I wonder if there's something going on with his business.
Very interesting. Very interesting. We don't know enough about the inner workings of the music industry to really comment. But P. Diddy is a very scary individual.
No, yeah.
I used to go down rabbit holes of YouTube video information, and I am such a, I'm not gonna say victim. I'm very susceptible to Illuminati videos. I find them very interesting. Do I believe the Illuminati exists?
Are you a Freemason guy?
Like me, no.
Yeah.
I'm not a Freemason, unfortunately. If I was, I don't think I would be as stressed out about things as I currently am.
Yeah.
But I find the information interesting. Just like a aspect of history.
Yeah.
Like the fact that all these legends about the exact same thing can consistently exist around all these celebrities. Quite fascinating to me specifically.
Yeah.
So I went down rabbit holes, and you know what the most prolific person in this like narrative is? It's P. Diddy. And all these videos circle around him and his parties and what happens behind closed door and what's he doing, and it's quite bizarre.
Yeah.
It's quite bizarre, and it's like, is it real? I don't know. Can't say, but if all these people are saying the exact same thing,
I am inclined to believe that it is 100%, especially after like this kind of right after like the whole R. Kelly thing, which we all like, come on, y'all. Aaliyah was literally like 14 years old.
I don't think anybody was
questioned.
No one was confused about the R. Kelly thing.
No.
Not a single person was confused.
No.
It was just kind of like, all right, well, they're arresting him now.
Yeah.
The thing is, back then, nobody cared.
No,
because he was producing Step in the Name of Love, which, I'm not going to say this. Well, you don't have to put this on the podcast, but I still love that song. I think it's a great party song. I'll have that song at most of my parties because I'm not going to like condone pedophilia. Sure. But that song is amazing. That is like a genius level song, man. Like, there's no song that puts everybody on the dance floor in such a smooth manner, right? You can have the cha-cha slide, sure, whatever. You can have all the new shit, cool, but like Step in the Name of Love, oh fuck. Step, side to side, around and back. Come on, that's a good song. That's a good song. Is that not a good song?
I don't really remember the song, to be honest.
I would play that song for you right now, but it's not that serious.
Okay.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
Other than that, fuck 'em, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Trapped in the Closet, You know, Trapped in the Closet.
Probably, yeah. I think I do. I just like not like recalling at this very moment.
She's not really black, y'all.
We just didn't really listen to R. Kelly growing up.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Thank God.
Now you don't have to over-explain yourself at fucking parties. Like, no, wait, that was a good song, guys. It's a good song. Wait, no.
No.
But yeah, no one was surprised. Homegirl was 14.
Yeah.
It's just everyone loved his music and his talent so much that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Until it did.
Yeah, which is like really the unfortunate thing and kind of like in theme to this episode of like how women in this instance in the entertainment industry are really used and abused, and no one really cares until it's like become a really, really huge deal or a really like serious problem.
And it's only a serious problem because of the way that the conversation has progressed in like the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
Because if that conversation never happened, if these people didn't get together and like make it a thing,
right,
then R. Kelly,
still,
Weinstein, Cosby,
which is like
they'd still be chilling.
Insane, because clearly so many people in the industry know about what's going on with these people, know who them by name, what's happening specifically, maybe saw things themselves. It's like, it's not like it's, no one knows about it. Hundreds and thousands of people probably know about what's going on. There are thousands of people in the entertainment industry, but yet like no one talks about it, because at the end of the day, people are making money off of these girls.
And the girls themselves are also making money.
Right.
So it's like,
but then even with that, it's like there is some like abuse there.
No,
like
right, there
like
is
financial
abuse, but it's very hard to like advocate for yourself when your livelihood is dependent on participating in the situation.
Right.
Emily Ratajkowski. How do you say?
Ratajkowski.
Oh,
I don't know. Wait,
Emrata, right?
Let's just say Emrata, because honestly, I could be saying it wrong too. Anyways, yes.
Emrata was talking about how as she's ascending into the height of fame as like one of the biggest models in the world, basically, there is this kind of like interesting dynamic between like the media companies and the people that sponsor her and all that stuff, where it's like on the one hand you do have to interact with these people, so that you can get ahead and have the opportunity to exist, but then on the other hand it's like you have to like negotiate what you're willing to sacrifice for yourself. And she's like, I didn't want to participate in this like game in this dynamic that people are interacting in, but it's hard not to. Like, it's just how much of the game you're willing to play.
Right.
So
100%.
if everybody's always on the same page and there's no checks and balances, you're kind of at the mercy of the people in power.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it is an interesting thing, because it's like, okay, then how worth it is to like participate in the thing. So this thing being like becoming an actress or a singer or a model, some sort of like fame in that regard, like how worth it is it to participate in it if that's essentially like the cost? Even now, that's still the cost in some regards. Like you still see I mean, I'm definitely not convinced that there's like complete like reform in like the entertainment industry. Like this stuff is still going on.
I think that like there's been like 4 or 5 people that were like the poster child for the Me Too movement, right?
Yeah.
And over hundreds of thousands of women that this happens to. It's not those 5 people like, oh, we got them, guys.
Right.
Everything's fine now. It's like, no, this is an ingrained systemic issue.
This is like a culture that is deeply rooted.
Exactly.
For sure.
So yeah. With every person that speaks about it, there's like 15 others that haven't said shit.
Yeah.
For a variety of different reasons. Maybe they're holding their children at ransom,
Who knows?
These people have the power to do lots of crazy things.
Yeah.
And they have the means and the motive, right? Which we'll talk about later. I have a little section about why rich people might be into these certain proclivities.
These proclivities.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, pretty horrible. Yeah, I mean, I think kind of taking it back even just to just like a more like general thing, and this is like kind of where you come in with the research that you were giving about like historically, like how, I mean, as like the misogyny definition stated, this has been going on for like thousands of years. It's been dead, right? Like literally, it's a rainbow. No, it's not a rainbow. That'd be happy.
Just titles.
Just a title. But yeah, it's a thing that like has been, as we said at the beginning, like is pervasive everywhere historically and just in every like facet of our lives, which is like we were saying, very daunting.
I will note before we start talking about the history that being Black, I am linked to African culture, right? However far away that is, I don't know. We were slaves, but African societies were matriarchal.
Yes, they were. Yes,
and they were successful, and they were beautiful, and they were matriarchal. You know what changed that matriarchy?
What?
Colonialism and Christianity.
Well, there you go.
So patriarchy is from Europeans, and Black people can't be misogynistic. There you go.
Boom.
Episode over. Goodbye, guys. The end.
And that is all for today. No nuance.
Right.
This
like,
episode.
follow, subscribe.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
It comes from Europe. It's a Western thing. You white demons need to relax.
Stop the white demons. Oh no. Oh no. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is unsurprising and unfortunate.
Kind of interesting. It goes back to just trying to understand how these things got so, like, how is colonialism a thing?
Right.
Europe is the smallest continent in the world. And
and then even just like the UK just being like literally an island.
How they have, I don't even know how they have the means to go where they went.
Right.
First of all. Second of all, how did you have the power to indoctrinate the world? Because that's what you did. The world is like influenced by your legacy, which is cool. I respect it. But on the other hand, it's like, how? I want to understand it. I respect it. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Well, when you have nothing of your own, you become more like not even just like, I'm not even talking about culture, but like maybe in terms of like resources. So like Africa's incredibly like there's a shit ton of resources in Africa.
Yeah. Everything that's resourceful comes from Africa.
Exactly.
Which is crazy.
So when you're in Africa, like countries in Africa, tribes and all these sorts of things, there's no need to outsource or go beyond necessarily because you have the resources you need. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm about to be really annoying.
I also am just like guessing.
Sure, right. Look, we're just theorizing.
Yeah.
No pressure. But again, I'm still going to be really annoying. Where it's like, you have all these resources. You would expect like Africa as a continent to be like Wakanda. Yeah. The idea. I know that Wakanda is a fictional place. Yes. Right? Everybody calm down. Goddamn. Wakanda forever. Anyways. You expect like if you have the gold and the magnesium and the iron and all the shit that you have, the diamonds, all the wealth, you think that you would be far more advanced because of it. Yeah. So that these people who have nothing on an island trying to make do with what they have no ability to overtake you. Yeah. In my brain, that's how I see it. Yeah. But that's not how it worked.
Human desperation.
Yeah, true. If you're more desperate, sure. But like, I think of it like, I know this is not the case. I understand history. I know how this happened. Yeah. But think of like humans. We're in this little world and we go like Jupiter. Jupiter has like this very advanced society, right? If we went to Jupiter to try to like overthrow them, that wouldn't work. Even if we are desperate for what they have, they're just like more advanced than us. Right. But we weren't. Yeah. We were just chilling. Yeah. And vibing. And then they came and took everything over, which is, I don't get it. It's not to be understood. Anyways, that's not the point of what we're talking about right now. History. So I was reading a book and it's called The Case Against the Sexual Revolution. I think I mentioned this during the Barbie episode. Yeah. Great book. Interesting read. And it's written by a woman, so you can't attack her misogyny. Because she's not misogynistic. She clearly loves women. And she has a lot of fun anecdotes about like the legacy of this idea, to which she references colonialism, but also more specifically like going to war between nations, right? As to where this idea of the commodification of bodies come from. Because it's not to say that male bodies also aren't commodified.
Mm-hmm.
There's just there's a more interesting association to women's bodies specifically,
right?
And how, like, in the modern time, media and institutions utilize that body, versus how they utilize men's body. Like, it's almost glorified if you're a man and you can, like, get ahead by using your body, and not in the same way that it is if you're a woman, for a variety of different reasons. Maybe men don't want to see men's bodies. Maybe, like, the powers that be, I don't know.
It definitely is different. I think, like, maybe, like, men's bodies, like, even like in this example of, like, war, it's like, well, you know, men are the ones who are being drafted. They're like, they're commodified in, like, a very military sense as well.
I didn't even put that together. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, commodify this.
Yeah, commodify this.
Oh, hey, maybe how we commodify women's not so bad.
See, no, that's where none of those comments.
Hey, man, we have to go to war and die.
Apparently, we're going to have to start doing it too. They're trying to talk about equal rights. Now the women are going to get drafted too. I'm like, damn.
Equality. Hey, everybody wants.
You misunderstood me, Mr. Joe Biden. I meant equity, not equality.
This is not what we wanted.
This is not what I need.
Like, we wanted to vote. We didn't want to go to war and die.
I just wanted my own credit card.
I wanted to work. I want to get paid the same as y'all. I'm not trying to go to war. Too late.
Too late.
This is what you wanted, right? Equal rights and lefts.
My God. Yeah. It's quite unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just hilarious. But all jokes aside.
Not that men's bodies are not commodified, but women's are commodified.
But women's are commodified more ubiquitously and more interestingly, I would say. To that point, most societies had a respect and reverence for women. Why? Because they are, oh man, that's such a bad word. I was going to say incubators. You were just, when you said at the beginning, like, Renee is going to check all of your, she's gonna,
your misogynistic comments. I didn't realize that you were actually going to be a misogynist this episode.
I was not trying to be. I'm not like going out of my way to be.
It's internalized.
Internalized
misogyny.
Yeah, it's fine.
At its finest. God damn.
I didn't say it. I caught myself. Not to say, or there's a general respect for most women in most societies because of their ability to bring forth life into the world. Right. There you go.
Yes.
They incubate life, and we require that as like a system, as an organism, as humans, and we also respected it when it's our women, right? But there's this overarching idea of male sexuality, and it evolved very differently than female sexuality. Whether or not people want to accept that, that's not what we're arguing about today. But evolutionarily, men prefer variety, whereas women prefer security, I guess is the only way to describe that. Not to say that women haven't had variety in many different ways, but generally speaking, men have a sexual or an evolutionary bias towards variety. So if you respect the women that you have, the only way you can meet this evolutionary need is through other women from other tribes, from other places, from other, I guess that's the only way to say that you then have to objectify so that you can meet that need for sexual variety. And that showcased itself when people went to war. Men went to war. Their prize was the eradication of the men and the claim of women. Some got roped into the society, others got subjected and sold into an early form of human trafficking that wasn't really denoted back then, but that's how it was.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really have much comment on that besides that that's wild and unfortunate. And also too, like, well, like, I don't know if this is like directly related to like the beginnings of the commodification, but kind of in terms of like the purposes of like, you take, rape and pillage and all that sorts of thing, is like it also kind of like you exterminate, or it's an attempt at extermination of like that other tribe or that other country or that other whatever. Because if you take their women, their means to reproduce, then they're more likely to die out. So also that.
Like objectification and like eugenics.
Right. So many different things at play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
War is a crazy thing. I don't know why humans are so readily to engage in it.
Why are we doing this?
It's so. But there was a lady back in the 1880s.
Okay.
The Gilded Age.
Beautiful. Yes. We love that show.
Where she was like a social justice warrior before social justice was even a thing.
Okay.
And she went to the battlefront where British soldiers were occupying India.
Okay.
So they were trying to annex India. They're negotiating, or the fighting is like subsiding.
Mm-hmm.
Now the British are trying to negotiate with the governments that be in India to figure out how they're going to split this up, basically. Right. And the soldiers being there, they were, or the rulers of India were mandating that the soldiers were able to go around all the little villages and just take young girls for their pleasure, if that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was like, maybe they paid for it, maybe they didn't have to, and if they did pay for it, it was like $2.
Right.
So like not very much, but immediately objectification, commodity, product
used as currency of some sort.
And this lady's let me tell you her name. I think it's important to know. Her name is Josephine Butler.
Okay, Josephine.
Yeah, in the 1880s, she went to India at the front of the war situation, and she was trying to get some sort of humanitarian situation going for these girls in these brothels, I'll call them, because they were acquired by these army people. They were sold into these brothels. They got a salary, a stipend per se, but they also had to pay rent to the brothel people that basically kidnapped them.
Right.
And it was more than what they made by having to have sex with all these
Kept
workers,
them in debt.
you know?
Trafficking 101.
Literally. So, and it's crazy because like the mistresses were also women that were in on this.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing. It's
so crazy to me. So she was going in there and trying to like just appeal because these were young girls.
Right.
They were like stuck in this like trafficking situation where they had no help. And she was trying to appeal to the better nature of humans, and like, these are human beings, we can't treat them like this, treat them better. And she was trying to set them up for more productive outlooks. Right. And she actually had a lot of success. There's a lot of women that she saved from that environment, that situation.
Yeah. It is kind of like, as like you're talking about this, and like kind of the history of like where we see like this idea of like commodifying the women's body, kind of we start seeing it historically. You know, because even in, you know, as we continue to talk about this and some of the other things we go into, even I know myself, and I'll definitely will say this, of like how, you know, it's difficult to not commodify really anything under like a capitalistic system. But yet, as we're seeing in these examples that you're giving, this was happening even prior to any prior to like the birth of capitalism,
like the globalization of capitalism.
Yeah. Or just like even like what we just said, like the literal basic idea of war, and like how that has been going on for centuries, and how women have been taken and used in this way. Prostitution is the oldest profession, all that sorts of things. Like, this is something, and like I said, I will still use this in later arguments, right? That like, it's hard to not commodify something when it's under the system that we exist in. But even without that, this is something that has persisted in like the history of women and like humans in general for forever.
Yeah. And I will make a comment on the prostitution being the oldest profession because, but according to the book, she was talking about how...
What book?
The Case Against the Sexual Revolution. She was talking about how there is a gap between like what males want sexually, which is variety, and the amount of women that are available for that, because most women are in committed relationships, or most women want to procreate in committed relationships.
Yeah.
So that gap that's left on a societal level for all the what do you call it? It's like unsatisfied, unmet need for sexuality that men have is taken by prostitution. So it's the oldest profession because that gap has existed for so long, and they bear the brunt of that male sexuality. It's like I'm tired of having sex with my wife. Let me go to a brothel. Not as glamorous as one might believe.
No. Unfortunate, but true.
Because it was before capitalism, or I would say that capitalism is a byproduct of like basic economics in the sense supply and demand. If I can make a profit off of charging money for something that you want,
yes,
you immediately have a system in which that capitalistic nature, that product nature of whatever it is can occur. So as long as you want something and I can charge you money for it, we got a system. We got a system, a capitalistic system before even capitalism was a thing. And then capitalism officially happened, and now you're just sinking deeper into consumerism. Consumerism. And it's like, that's all fine and dandy when it's like, oh, clothes. Oh, pasta. You know, how fun, how interesting, variety. I get all the ice cream I want, but then like when it's like people, and you have to negotiate what that looks like on a societal level, then things don't start fitting so neatly in those boxes, right?
Already are kind of touching on it.
Let's talk about prostitution.
Yeah, since we're already on the subject,
prostitution.
It's hard not to talk about prostitution where you're talking about commodifying a woman's body.
I think that's the easiest example of, all right, not the easiest, or the most extreme example of how a body can be commodified.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing that's going to be like the first thing that comes up in people's minds, in my own mind, when I think about this topic. For sure. And it's definitely more polarizing than I thought amongst the feminist community, in terms of just what people argue for when people argue for and against like sex work. Because you see like two camps with it, like where there's like, the feminist who argues like against sex work, who believes that it is still operating in promoting like a very patriarchal society, promoting misogyny, upholding those like principles that feminism is actively trying to fight against. And then you have feminists who are saying, honestly, I wish I did a little bit more research on this. I'm not going to lie. I don't know like the full argument that people were saying on the other end of it, but I was seeing like comments from people, mainly in like certain Reddit threads and all that sort of thing. Not necessarily like articles that I was reading, of like people saying like, not to people being so negative against sex and sex work. They like are, I don't know, they need to not be or whatever. It's like, just like it's these women's ways of feeling like empowered, and you can't like talk down on that. So I found that to be interesting.
There's a line in the internet space that I really enjoy, because I feel like it's very relevant, and it's bring back shame. Right? Bring back shame. Shame is not as bad as everyone wants it to be. Right? Like, not all desires are good desires. But post-sexual revolution, 1960, we have this narrative that the liberal language has been taking up, and it's kind of a refusal of rules and a refusal of structure, which on the one hand was necessary for the time that it was birthed. Now it's like the acceptance of everything and anything, and under the guise of like open-mindedness and conscientiousness and just being free flowing and just like vibey, I guess, but it doesn't necessarily take into account the negative consequences of living without structure, right? Structure is a good thing. Structure is useful, but even more so, I think it's useful for prostitution specifically, because sex work is work is such a common narrative these days, especially now that the OnlyFans popped up and porn has been destigmatized a little bit
because of OnlyFans, I would say largely. It's had a rebrand almost.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Like something of a rebrand. So like sex work is work, and it is taking into account all these notions of reclaiming your sexuality. The narrative around female sex and their bodies has always been like oppressive and abusive. So if you engage in these ideas on your terms, then you're restructuring the narrative within your mind. It's no longer abusive if you want to do it.
Yeah.
But I would argue that most people don't want to. Like, everyone has an intrinsic understanding that prostitution is not something they want to do.
Yeah.
So they rebrand it, like you said, into other things. Now it's not prostitution, it's like escorts. Like escorts, ooh, so fun, so glamorous, so this, that, and the other. And I'd argue that it's really difficult to like have a new association with something that you're participating in the exact same dynamic in.
Yeah.
Which is to say, whether you are calling it a acceptance and a rebranding, a reclaiming of your sexuality, and so you're wanting it to be this empowering thing, you're still letting a guy you're not attracted to fuck you because he paid you.
Yeah.
So how much of that, like as much as it is rebranded, how much of that is actually different?
Like the actions themselves are the same. And I would say, like, from my perspective, I do understand that, like, that notion, right? Even with how the Black community has like reclaimed the N-word. Like you could like, there's like a similar idea where like the Black community has reclaimed that as it was used as a derogatory term, and now we've reclaimed it for ourselves, etc.
And I have another example in that same like vein.
Yeah.
So,
but like when it comes to like specifically like this example of like sex work and like say like OnlyFans and just like the general like hookup culture, casual sex culture, etc. Just because your perception has changed, and just because like the perception of a lot of women has changed in terms of like restructuring their like relationship with sex and their sexuality. And that is an incredibly powerful thing, a journey that I have also experienced and am experiencing. The general man's perception has not changed. The patriarchy that we live in, that system that we operate under still has not changed. So regardless of how much your perception has changed of like your association with the action, it still has not changed with literally like half of the other population. So it's still like not as, because you're still then just supporting, because then the other population that the perception hasn't changed are the ones with the power and are like the majority in that regard. And
in a way, you're giving them exactly what they want.
No,
like,
exactly.
The whole idea, like, take to example, the free the nipple movement, right? Women should be able to walk around without a shirt just like men do. Every man, hell yeah, I agree. Do what you got to do. Feminism, let's do it. But it's like, to your point, you are trying to do something for a change, for a deeper, like more profound understanding of your like sense of existence on the planet, on the world, whatever. Yeah. And it's being completely undermined by the fact that we don't care. That a lot of men are not seeing it that same way. They're just seeing it as, you can call it whatever you want as long as I still get this, as long as I'm still getting what I want. Empowerment, you want to fuck as many dudes as you want to? Yeah. Who's going to be bad at that? Not me. Yeah. As long as you're not my freaking girlfriend, as long as you're not my freaking sister, mom, whatever. Right. Because same like the historical implications. We want to respect and hold value and sanction the people that we respect, the people that we love. Yeah. And everybody else is like free for all. Yeah. And to the point you were talking about, reclaiming the N-word, right, for Black people. I look at the way that feminism is trying to reclaim female sexuality in the same way that right after slavery ended, Black people were trying to reclaim like slave work. Oh yeah, the agricultural. Yeah. It's like oh, we're not slaves anymore. We're sharecroppers.
Yeah.
This is our own thing now.
They still
I'm doing
lived
the
on
fucking hands
plantation.
again.
Yeah, you are doing the hands.
Ew.
I'm trying to be relatable.
Yeah, so they're still living in the same house. They're still
Yeah.
working for the same person. They're getting paid marginally. But it's like, this is the only thing we know how to do. This is our skills. So like, this is what we have to do. But if
Right.
the system didn't change,
Right.
if they don't own the means of production, then it's the exact same situation.
Yeah.
And like you saw just like a very glamorized version in the Gilded Age. They were free, they were chilling, but white men still felt entitled to do whatever they want in the
Right.
South.
Just
right?
their perception has changed. Their like life and
Like we can't
mentality has
technically
changed.
own you,
Right.
but you're still a nigga.
Yeah. Well,
bleep
there you
that
go.
out.
Yeah, bleep that
You
one out.
know, so it's like if you're like still a whore in the mind of a man, no matter how much you want to repackage that as a form of like personal empowerment and the journey that you're on, you're still going to be associated with those terms, regardless of like what that is for the individual. Because like I said, we're speaking population level. There's I would argue that actually I'm not even going to go there. We don't need a rebuttal. Go ahead.
Okay. No, and even like as we're saying this, like it's an incredibly like frustrating position as like a woman to hear and like understand that. And I think that's why I do understand that then when women are like, well, then we're just going to do what we want to do at the end of the day because it is empowering to us because we want to like feel this way. We want to do what we want to do. So we're just going to do it. And I agree. Like I understand that. It's a really like frustrating argument to be like, well, like men are still going to perceive it this way, so it doesn't really matter. And that's why I think it's so important, especially and for so many reasons. Like we can go down such a rabbit hole with this of like why like we really need to, as a society and as like the men of society, really need to help themselves and help each other. Because even just like, I don't know, I think there's just like a whole epidemic going on in general right now with like, you see a prime example, like Andrew Tate and the way that he's influenced a lot of young men. But clearly from what I'm hearing, even as we're talking about this, the change really has to come from the men. And there has to be a lot of focus, I think, on the men wanting to like change and evolve and grow that we as women just can't do. We can't do that for the men. Just as much as sexually liberated as we can get, like at the end of the day, if our fellow compatriots are not coming along with us in that, there's nothing that can change in society. And so really there was a lot of the responsibility with this, which is so still unfortunate, but the irony in that, the responsibility of like women's sexual liberation still lies within the man is very frustrating. But still, as we're talking, is the case because they are the ones that kind of hold all the cards, so to speak, in this sense.
No, yeah, I agree. First of all. Second of all, it's such an idealistic notion because I don't think most reasonable men would argue with you in one, the responsibility that we have to change the perception, and two, the desire to have more equal footing in this like movement. I think that the people that make the patriarchal entities that perpetrate these ideas benefit too much from the way things are.
Totally.
To the point that they're not even worried about what we're discussing at this level, right?
Right.
And again, most men are like on these marches, on these things, like for sure. Like we're not, most men are not trying to abuse and disrespect women.
Right.
But like we were talking about before we even started recording this episode, when you have the system that perpetuates the idea, it becomes incredibly difficult to negotiate even for your own self and the individual. Like with every action that you take being informed in some way by this idea. Kind of similarly to how it's like really hard to exist in America as a black person because almost everything is a racism, or everything is racist or informed or derived in some way by racism.
Right.
And it's so interesting too. I was listening to a guy. He actually got famous on TikTok because his thing was like, everything's racist. And I was like, okay, I'll buy it.
Right,
Why not?
right.
We'll
Tell me what it is.
And everything was. It's like you just little things.
Yeah.
Little tiny things. I forget the example that he used, but just like innocuous things.
Yeah.
It's like,
but it's like if you take it back.
Take it far enough, it's like, and whites hated black people. It's like,
and the reason why.
You know, like, okay. And like you being mixed, like, I can't even imagine that, like, rationalization you have to go through on a day. Like, I am both white and a black.
Right.
Like,
it's,
oh my goodness.
No, 100%.
Versus like me, I'm not even full black. No, don't worry about what I am. It's not important. But it's like, I'm just like trying to wrap my mind around this too, because like, you know, you interact with white people, individual to individual, especially in California. People are chill, man. Not everyone is like, fuck black people saying N-word and behind your back. It's like, I hate this dude, stuff like that.
We definitely grew up in like a California bubble for sure in that regard.
And it's like, that doesn't change the way things are. Yeah. And to believe in this liberal ideation, these idealistic notions, is a little naive, almost childish, because then you'll operate and act in a way that isn't reflective of the way things actually are. And sure, you could argue, I want to exist the way things, like I want things to be, right? Be the change you want to be.
Be the change you want to see.
Ain't that... You got it. Be the change you want to see.
Sorry.
And that's the biggest lie that has ever been told. Because you cannot be the change you want to see, because all the people who were the change they wanted to see got assassinated by the powers that be.
Bars you are dropping. This is also like really depressing, the stance that you're taking. I tend to be a lot more idealistic for sure.
No, I'm like ingrained in the bowels of realism.
Yeah.
For better or worse, you know? They got me this far.
100%. 100%.
But bringing that back to the idea of like prostitution and sex work and stuff like that, I think to your point, there's a duplicitous idea in the realm of feminism, where on the one hand you're like, don't do it, it's stigmatized, whatever, and then on the other hand it's like empowering. I think on some level there's like a level of empathy that women want to share with sex workers, in the sense that there's a vague understanding that they have, whereas like these are women too. Yes. And if we decriminalize, then we can institutionalize, and within institutions, there can be regulation. Right. And I think that's the heart of where they're coming from. 100%. Sure. I think it's a biased notion, because I don't know if everyone that talks about sex work as work really understands the full scope of what sex work is, right? We have this like glamorous perception. And this is also an interesting bias that the book was talking about, where it's for most liberal ideas, we're dealing with marginalized groups, right? So for like gay marriage, that was like the smallest denominator, the lowest denominator not getting their rights. Right. Civil rights, right? Small denominator not getting their rights. And that you can trace that all the way up until it comes to this idea like sex work is work. They are actually biased to the highest denominator, which is a really interesting thing, because liberalism is really, it has a habit of being like anti-classist in a way, where like if it's focused on marginalization, wow. If it's focused on marginalization, then it immediately like rebukes the upper class, the aristocracy. But for sex work as work, one, the definition of what sex work is so broad. So it can be as anything as like selling your feet pics, all the way to like the street level prostitution at a motel type situation. Right. And those are very, very, very different. Yeah. Right. Because you see these people that are advocating these are either one, people that have benefited greatly from the the structure. So they are feeling super empowered because they basically just scammed men into making them like crazy millionaires.
Yeah.
And they're usually like middle class, white people that benefited from this thing. So
like OnlyFans.
Like OnlyFans or like high-end escorts, or we're talking about like the most famous, like I'm not going to use Mia Khalifa as an example, but like Mia Khalifa level type individual where it's like, see, they're chilling. This is good. And those are the poster children for these type of movements.
Right.
Whereas if you look at sex work in its like entirety and its like basic truth,
right,
sex work is a byproduct of financial inequality. So it's the poorest people of society surviving.
Right.
And the only way that you can survive is by busting it open for whoever's willing to pay for that.
Right.
And there's a lot of people willing to pay for that. But you'll see, and I have this quote from this guy who, I think this is from a person who lives in a society where prostitution is legal.
Okay.
And he says that, or I'll say this, there's a sense of entitlement and objectification to like the most irrational and angering extent, right? So these people, again, this was, I don't know where this guy's from, but he has a quote and he said, "I told myself that I'll be with different races, Japanese, Indian, Chinese, etc. And once I have been with them, I'll tick them off the list. It's like a shopping list." So they're just going through the motions. And these people are engaging in these unwanted sex acts, whether they like have a choice to or not. They're completely like gripped by like their pimp or their handler, and they're giving most of like 80% of their revenue to these people.
Yeah.
And they are productized in a way that strips them of any semblance of respect and humanity.
Totally.
It's really hard. I'm not a feminist, but like as a feminist, it's really hard to, at least to me, justify that idea. Like I have empathy for these people. I want like this to be decriminalized, destigmatized, because sex is empowering, female empowerment, all this stuff.
Totally.
But for the people that are actually in it, in the
large
trenches,
majority,
you know, getting paid $20 to have sex with a fat, ugly motherfucker who, you know, like that's not glamorous. That's not enticing. That's not beautiful.
It's very traumatizing.
It's traumatizing. And they were saying that emotionally, there's very little difference between the effects that sexual assault has on a person and prostitution at that level has on a person. So it's not you buying hella Birkin bags and a house because now you're a millionaire overnight because men are horny.
Right.
It's a survival, and your survival is dependent on these structures that oppress you. Right. And to be like, well, it's work. Sex work is work. It's not as empathetic as you want it to be. You know?
Yeah. No, that's lots of great points that you made there. 100%. 100%. I think definitely in this age of like hypersexualization, you know, we really do strip the importance of sex and how intimate it is, and just like how dehumanizing that can be to dehumanizing, and like how does that like warp your self-perception when you're using your vessel as a means to like make money, and knowing that the people that you're interacting with, who are interacting with your body, don't care about you but your body. And like, yes, that can be like, it's just like my body, like it's whatever. I think like we're kind of skating over like how significant that is.
My body, but like, that's your body.
That's your body.
That's your body. But like 100%. You have literally nothing else,
right?
But your body.
Exactly. And it's for me, like even to like I try and like refrain from saying this because a lot of like women feminists out there do kind of, especially like the celebrity type. So even like, I would say like Imrata is a good example where I feel like people will say in one vein, you know, which is like, right, you know, I have experienced as a woman in society objectification. You don't even have to have done sex work at all to have gotten like catcalled on the street. You know what I mean? Even then taking it to that next level of like, of being like sexually assaulted and whatnot. But then also in the other vein of saying, which it's like, it's not like those things are inherently bad. And that's the hard part. And I think that's what we as a society are trying to grasp at, right? Of like, okay, well, a woman like posting a video of like shaking her ass and like wanting that attention or whatever, like she should just be able to do that. Or if one wants to have an OnlyFans, she should be able to do that. Like female empowerment. I agree, but it's also hard for me to go, given the things that we just said about the system that we live under and exist under, and how people perceive something about you like matters. Like that is going to impact your perception of things, how your experience of the thing. And when people, men in this case, are like not seeing you as human because of the way that you're like, and I don't want to use like, well, okay, I won't use Imrod as like her life example, but say like a model who's like her body's being used in like a very sexual way and like a music video or whatever, and how that was really like dehumanizing experience for her. But then also being like, oh, like I can like, let me just like post like whatever I want on my body on the internet. It's something I'm still trying to grasp at.
You like and you realize the contradictory notions between those.
Yeah. And I hate to say that because not that I hate to say it, because it's something for me where I'm still trying to grab understanding from what other people mean when they say those things, because I don't want it to come across, at least from my perspective, that I'm like, well, women should just cover up and be modest and like,
yeah, you're not a prude.
no, literally. No, shake your ass, girl. Do what you want. Like, I don't care. But also when we like analyze those statements, it just becomes difficult.
It's hard to separate.
Yeah. And like I said, I understand then women say like, and I agree, like, well, like we live under this patriarchal system and I don't give a fuck. I just want to do what I want to do and I don't want to be objectified while doing it. And I'm 100% right there with you.
Yeah. Like I would love that for you too.
Yeah.
But again, idealistic. You're not going to be able to do whatever you want to do and not have the consequences of the actions be a byproduct of your behavior.
Yeah.
It's not good to be objectified, but also should you be upset at the system?
Yeah.
Yes, you can be upset. All right, be upset.
Yeah.
That's not the question. But like, can you really be mad at the system when you are like feeding it? It's like shaking your ass for the internet is feeding the system. And then you're going to turn around and be like, well, fuck the system. I can do what I want. Stop being the system that it is. Like, you have to break the system and then you can do what you want.
Yeah. I just like remembered like another like pivotal like point that a lot of women say, and this is something that I do agree with, and I think is why then we end up in this like cyclical like situation, is because women get objectified even when they are engaging in like overtly like sexual behaviors, right?
In which case,
right? So it's like, it becomes one of those things of like, well, I'm being seen this way, I'm being dehumanized regardless if my tits are out or not. So might as well. And that I really do understand.
I get that.
Because it's super frustrating. I like, you hear all the time, and I like know like I was just like thinking in my head of an example of like, I was catcalled so often, and when I was like a kid, by the way, I don't get catcalled at all anymore. Maybe it's because we live in LA and it's like a little weird to do that, but like,
or because you're really tall,
or because I'm old.
You're undesirable.
Sorry, you don't look. Which also, that's a
we
whole
don't
other
want to play with you anymore.
Yeah, which is like also another like touch on the commodification of women.
We're gonna get there for sure.
We're not going to touch on this specific episode, but definitely maybe. Oh, really? I feel like that's a whole other
about age.
Of just, I think that is just like not a whole other conversation, but a connected next step conversation.
All right.
Just in terms of like, like age, like the pedophilic nature of this as well, like which we haven't touched on. I'm just not prepared to talk about that today. So I say we'll
table that for next time.
Yeah. But Yeah, as a child, I was like catcalled all the time, walking
That's
to
crazy.
school, like guys and
What
like
the fuck were they saying to you?
old ass men. They would just, just random shit. They would be like,
Yeah,
God,
cutie, keep it going.
Yeah, there you go.
To a
Why
child?
not? Yeah. Like I'd be like, I was literally like 14 years old, like walking to school and
Jail.
like 40-year-old men in trucks
Jail.
driving by saying stuff to me.
I'm about to blow up that entire city, bro. Antelope, gotta go. Gots to go. That's crazy.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Now like that really contextualizes your, like, what are you gonna do if someone tries to kidnap you right now? I get that more now. Like, geez, that was an actual threat.
For the listeners, I, as a child, would often think about what I would do if someone was trying to kidnap me. I thought about it often. I'm a very anxious child.
Well, now we know
an
why.
anxious person. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so kind of then that just being another plug of a point that needs to be definitely said is that even when we are not showing our bodies, not trying to be sexy, or any sorts of thing, we're not sex workers, we don't have an OnlyFans, this is still happening.
Right.
And that's a very real experience.
I will also comment on that too, because I agree.
Right.
I agree. If you're damned if you do, and if you're damned if you don't, might as well do, right? Because you will feel better if you do. But will you feel better if you do? And that is the question. Because if you're damned if you do and you damned if you don't was a thing, so you just do was actually as accurate as we want it to be, then the people that do wouldn't feel as bad for doing. So the system still affects you whether you do or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's almost exponentially more damaging if you do for this specific situation. I'm going to bring it back to Emerada for a second. You said you didn't want to talk about her life, but I feel like her life is very interesting. She has an entire book about this entire idea about being a model and her relationship with her body. The book is called My Body by Emerada. Check it out. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But she notes in that book, and she says she developed such a dysfunctional relationship because as you act, there's actions acting on you, right? So in your empowerment, unless you have an ironclad sense of self, you are going to be affected by the influence of the people around you. And if you are participating in the behavior that commodifies you and that objectifies you, you can't separate yourself from that, to the point where she has to have sex with her husband, or I think they broke up, her ex, right? She had to have sex with her ex with a mirror, so she could remind herself that she was like a real person.
Wow, she said this in the book? Wow, that's very vulnerable for her to admit.
Yeah, good for her,
Yeah.
first of all. Second of all, like, that's a common sentiment.
That's like, that hit me. That's really hard. That's like, that makes me want to cry. That's really bad. Yeah.
But yeah, she stopped feeling like a real person.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And if that was like a unique situation to her, then my previous comment would make more sense. Yeah, do whatever you want. But that's not a unique experience to her. You'll hear that OnlyFans people stop doing OnlyFans. Now they can't get jobs. Now their sense of self is like shattered because they don't know what else to do with themselves. Porn stars, same thing. Sex workers, same thing. On every level of this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not as like it's
just like how like on every level, like women are still mentally affected by these things.
And like, it's not to say that your average ass pic on Instagram with your 500 followers is going to be completely destructive to your psyche.
No,
but
post the bikini pic, like, by all
post the
means.
Bikini pic.
Jesus.
Do your little fucking TikToks that you do with your thing, your little what's that trend that they did? Put your head on my shoulders.
Yes.
Like, do your little,
shake your ass on your IG story.
If you want to do that,
thing.
it's fine. Like, that is like so individualistic that can be the empowerment that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, when you like zoom out, right? Industries, you're a model.
Yeah.
So like when you're in those industries, when you're in the basically entertainment of any form, right, it's really hard to separate yourself from that objectification. And the next point that I want to touch on is that realm, like entertainment.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
And not necessarily the adult entertainment industry.
Right, just in general.
Let's first, did you watch the video I sent you about yachting? You didn't,
No,
did you? Fuck
I forgot.
you, bro.
I forgot to watch it. I was going to.
It's
I
a good
apologize.
video. You're missing out.
All right.
It's a
Well,
pretty interesting thing.
You can just tell me all about it.
But before that, how do you interact with this idea as a model?
I was really going to say this is like a great example of like how like using your body as like a means of like providing a service is still, even like taking sex out of that equation, is still a dehumanizing experience, or can be a dehumanizing experience to like the most extreme, but to the less extreme definitely impacts and like affects like your self-perception, because that's something that you talk to any model, including myself. The moment I started modeling, I think about my weight so much more often. I think about how I look, all of these sorts of things. I developed insecurities, developed body dysmorphia because, and this is me working in a reformed modeling industry.
Like they're trying to empower you.
Like this, I'm working in the LA market modeling industry, with any model who knows anything about that knows like they're very progressive. They're not like, for the most part, agencies, like your agents aren't going to be telling you that you need to like eat less or that you look
size
fat.
2. I think you got to get down to like 1. What are you
Granted,
doing?
that does happen still in LA for sure, but it's not as I would say, like if you go to like maybe like New York or go to like different European markets.
Yeah, the Europeans
they do not play.
I just look at Anna Wintour's face.
Yeah.
And I can just assume what she's telling people.
Right. 100%. 100%.
I still want to be invited to the Met Gala though, please.
Right.
Please, I beg you.
Please. But yeah, it really does affect your self-perception, because the nature of your work is making sure your body looks a certain type of way. You have to, even like something that you learn as you get into modeling is like forming like body awareness, so that like when you're in front of a camera and you're doing like videos and you're doing all these sorts of things, you have like an innate awareness of like the different muscles in your face and like what your hand looks like when it's placed here and there and whatnot. So you create this like super hyper awareness of your body. And it's like, then you obviously then that turns into like a self-critique, because then you're seeing yourself on these cameras, like how do I look, what yada yada yada. It 100% impacts your self-perception. And so I think that like even like to that degree, it's like if that affects people, models talk about all the time the mental health struggles that we experience just by being in this industry, then like imagine it taking it to like selling your body to like the highest degree, being sex, right?
Yeah. It's rough to think about.
Yeah.
It's rough to think about. I'm not a model, and I never really wanted to be a model. People were trying to make me model. I'm like, that's not my life, right?
Right.
But as a like content creator, influencer almost, you hear all the time, you are the brand, right? You got to make yourself into a brand. You got to make yourself into a thing that people want to pay money for.
Right.
So not as aggressive as modeling, why? Because I have like much more control and autonomy as to how I look and what I look and what people want to purchase from me.
Totally.
For my branch of content. But I say this all the time, and I am very glad that I got popular when I got popular. Because if I got popular at 18 or younger, I don't think I would have handled it nearly as well as I handle it now. Like, it does not affect me. Like, social media is not a real place.
Yeah.
In the famous words of Dave Chappelle, social media is not, Twitter's not a real place.
Yeah.
So I do not care like what the perception is.
Right.
But if I was younger, where those things or those ideas that made me myself were still forming, don't really have a strong sense of what I want to be.
Yeah.
I would be completely influenced by the comment that's calling me the N-word or talking about how whatever they're talking about. Right. Like, okay. So imagine like these child stars that are popping up, like 8, 9, 10 Justin Bieber type vibes. And it's like, now I have a better understanding as to why he acted out the way he did. Like, don't condone it. That guy was an asshole for sure. Yeah. But I get why he was like grasping at straws. Like, his sense of self had to be fabricated in a crazy degree. Totally. A completely crazy degree. And it's just so, like, even I realized in this conversation, I realized that I don't necessarily understand it. Like cerebrally.
Okay.
I get why things are happening and why things operate the way they do on a societal level, on an individual level.
Yeah.
But personally, I just can't relate to it. Like why the power structures that be will take something as like valuable as a human being and be like, nah, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
What can you provide for this structure?
Right.
And you could argue, like you were saying, going back to capitalism, that everything in a late stage capitalism, right? We said this before, becomes a commodity.
Yeah.
Everything is being charged and nothing has inherent value outside of what it's providing to the system.
Right.
And I also like err on the side of like hustle culture and like this overproductivity. You have to produce as much as you can so that you can have value in the system. The only people that have value in this system are the rich people.
Right.
Right? We're not rich, at least it's not as rich as we need to be to exist with value in the system. So I sometimes err on the side of that idea. So I see myself operating in it. But it's just so much larger than anything that I can relate to. Yeah. It just, you're in it and it's within you and you can't literally do anything about it. It's just kind of how things are. And now, again, here we are, aware of the freaking prison and powerless to escape it. And it's just so bizarre. Yeah. Because like you say, you just go down the rabbit hole and you realize just how
so many
relevant
things.
All this stuff, or like how, I keep saying ubiquitous, but just how much it permeates everything. Yeah. It's like everywhere all the time, all at once. I love that movie. But going back to the entertainment industry, there's an idea, the video that you didn't watch because you hate me for some reason, has to do with yachting. And yachting is when beautiful women specifically, sometimes men, not too many women own yachts. Not too many women want hot people on their yachts. So the ones that do are probably not doing this. Mostly men, right? Mostly ultra wealthy men in the billions of dollars that get hot people to come on their boats. They pay you to exist on their boats. Sometimes it's with the implication of sexual favors. On the surface, it's just, I need pretty people on my boats.
Gotcha.
And it's...
What a random why. You know what I mean? Like my first thing is like, why?
And I have an answer for you.
Oh, okay.
If you saw the video, you would know why.
But isn't it more interesting this way? Now I can ask you as if I'm a student in the audience.
I guess. I want a partner in a podcast, but be a student. Do whatever you want, girl. That shit's crazy to me. Why? Why? Because women are a status symbol for men. Yeah. I didn't get far enough in my research to really unpack why that's the case. And I don't know enough about it to even try to hypothesize at this moment in time. Yeah. But that's the case. Interesting. Hot women on your shoulder makes you better man in the marketplace, because men are competitive. What are we competing? We're competing for the attention of other men, right? That's the patriarchy. That's misogyny, right? Like you said, at the end of the day, misogyny, you hate men or you hate women so much. Is that like homophobic to say that?
I don't know.
Is that like the end of misogyny is being homosexual? Like that feels really.
Maybe we shouldn't like create that association.
So that feels so homophobic.
I didn't even think about that when I said it.
And you're like the culture the cancel police over here.
But like it also like kind of makes sense though, you know, like literally like dudes riding each other's dicks. Like so hard.
Nothing wrong with that if you're into dudes, but if you're into women and that's what you want to do, then it becomes a little...
I don't know. Yeah, okay. Maybe.
Honestly, I believe that. I believe it because like the end of misogyny is homosexuality. You hate women so much, you like men. Yeah. It makes complete sense. It's it logically flows. I don't know. Yes. Leave that in. I like this. It's
we'll leave it in. But to say that not all gay men are ones who hate women.
We're not trying to be attacking gay people. No. We're attacking incels, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that. But and maybe as I think about it, getting sex for men is not an easy thing to do. Giving sex for women is easier than men getting sex from women.
Like it's easier for a woman to have sex than for a man to have sex. Okay.
So maybe that just natural phenomenon produced the system that we find ourselves in.
If a man can as women being a status symbol. So if there's a man who can get a lot of sex,
then you're automatically like revered
in some
among
way.
Men.
Yeah.
And then evolutionarily too, I'm thinking this as we go. Evolutionarily, you had more men in a situation than women, like from the Neanderthal days.
Yeah,
because men had to do shit, and men died more. So, well, I guess that's a case by case basis too, because there are examples of like more women than men, because all the men died. But if you are fighting with other men for access to women, then the strongest, most violent, aggressive man that can beat all the other dudes is the one that's going to procreate. And that's the one that the women wanted to procreate because they want their children to survive.
Yeah.
Right? Evolutionary bias over here. So either you're getting it consensually or you're taking it aggressively. And those women or those men in history have been like the ideal, basically. Like we want to be that guy, rather than begging for access to women. Maybe that's why. And then in a oh no, what happened? In a dynamic in which most men are extremely competitive with each other, and then in an environment when all these men are like ultra wealthy, like super crazy, freaking like all this money.
Right.
What left do you have? It's like, I am a $40 billion net worth individual. It's like, I am an $82 billion net worth individual. Like that difference is not as interesting as I have Amrata on my arm. Who do you have? No one.
Not the rich laugh.
No bitches.
Oh no.
Pathetic, you know?
Right.
So
I see.
it's how you can use your resources to get a person that people want. You get the prize that people want, basically. And there's been a lot of studies on ultra high net worth individuals. Tony Robbins, Napoleon Hill, the guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich, very famous book, and Ray Dalio, very famous investment banker. He has the biggest investment firm like in the country or something, also a billionaire. They researched each other. Maybe it's biased now that I think about it, but they researched each other and they came to the conclusion that there's a common trait between all people that make a lot of money. And the first is a like intrinsic superiority, like superiority complex, a God complex, and also an intense void they're trying to fill.
Gotcha.
So if you think that you're better than people and you're trying to fill the emptiness that's encroaching on your very existence, you're going to try to fill that shit. And that usually creates a recipe for people to do what they got to do to climb the social ladder.
Right.
But that also creates an environment that doesn't promote the most safety for the people that they think they're better than. And in that power dynamic, on a boat out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, we're getting back to yachting after all that. Sorry, guys. All those tangents. But in a boat out in the middle of nowhere, if they're paying you to be, like, you're existing here because I'm literally paying you to be here, then they think that they own you.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope. Even crazier is that they not only control the vessel that you're on, you're the entertainment, whatever. They also control the opportunities and the means of production for what you're trying to do. So this is conspiracy on the vibe.
Disclaimer.
There's like a little conspiracy, but they have noted that you can't get ahead in Hollywood. You can't be an A-lister unless you go yachting.
Interesting.
So you see, like, Kylie Jenner was one of the most sought after. I think she's still today the most sought after yacht girl. She got paid, or she got bids of upwards of $5 million just for one night of being on this yacht.
Wow.
What she did on this yacht, I don't know, but homegirl's a billionaire now.
That's really
Kim
unfortunate.
Kardashian, same thing.
Yeah.
Emrata, same thing. Hailey Bieber, same thing.
Gotcha.
Who's a girl? Meghan Markle. Same thing. They say she met Charles. Harry. They say she met Harry on a yacht.
Allegedly.
Which, makes a lot of sense because where else would you meet a prince of England? Miss American.
Miss America.
She's not. When I found that out, I was so surprised because Meghan Markle is so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And all of a sudden, she's marrying the Prince of England.
Sure. Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
She wasn't like an A-list
What's
actress.
the other girl? Kendall. Same thing. And you guys know, you hear it. All these names I'm listing are like really famous, popular, affluent people. Yeah. The Cannes Music, the film festival, Cannes in some little
France.
Yeah. That's where I say the most aggressive form of that happens.
Yeah.
And when you weigh the options, right? To be Kendall, you have to fuck this executive and be on his yacht for a night. He pays you to be there, and then you become Kendall Jenner. Like the
right, like the weighing the cost of it feels.
I don't know about you, fam, but
moment.
I do that shit. I do it. I say, I'm saying now, if y'all want to take me on a yacht,
stop.
let me know. Let me know. I'm trying to party with hot people. Do what you gotta do, man. You want me to be the eye candy, and you're gonna make me into the next, I don't know, Idris Elba or something like that.
I'll take it. Wow.
I'll take it.
No, it is interesting. It sounds somewhat similar on a somewhat smaller scale, but just how in the entertainment industry where it's always towing the line of prostitution and human trafficking always. Because even that sort of exists it does exist in the modeling world. I don't know exactly what it's called specifically, but models often and this happens through agencies, right? Where people will hire models to come to parties to be pretty people at a party. Sometimes it's a thing where they'll have them serve stuff or whatever.
Actually working.
But it's also a really big, and I know I have a lot of friends who are aspiring actresses, et cetera, who do this sort of work where you get paid good money for a night to just literally be a pretty person at a party. Just they want you to look cute, look good at a party. That's all.
And to that point, that's kind of a flex.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's you just want me to my beautiful self to look good and I get paid for it?
Right.
Right.
But then extend that, right? Because I also know agencies that do the next level of that where they're flying out women to Dubai and they're getting shat on and jerking off camels and shit.
Oh wow, that's trigger warning.
Would you?
Jesus
we
Christ.
did that at the beginning. Man.
I'm just saying, I'm triggered. No, I'm triggered.
For me,
oh my God, those words are salting my ears.
Would you jerk off a camel for 50 grand?
Jesus Christ, no.
See, I would.
No.
Y'all are marketing to the wrong people. I'm saying.
Oh, Jeff.
I'm saying I would
go. You go off, King.
They don't want me. They don't want me. I want
empowerment
them to want me.
For you. I'm happy for you.
But it's
it's pervasive, as we continue to say. Just all the ways in which different industries, systems just prop it up.
And you were saying, towing the line between prostitution and human trafficking.
Right.
Because on the one hand, it's glamorized. They just want you to be at a party, eye candy, it's chill. You do that a couple times, and the fourth time they
approach you for something else. It's a little bit more.
And then these are your employers, right? There's so many fail safes in the corporate world to prevent this natural system or this natural thing from occurring. Because the power dynamic, it's so easy for the people in power to exploit the people that are under them. And it's hard for the people that are under them to say no because of the implications. One, they have influence over the things that you can become in that space. So you don't want to piss them off. So there's a little bit of a coercion there. And then also to what they can do to you. Billionaires have a lot of power to do a lot of things to a lot of people. And it's not for the faint of heart. You piss off a freaking king in Dubai, you're not coming home, bro.
Yeah.
And no one's coming to look for you.
Yeah.
Crazy things.
Yeah.
Crazy things. And I was thinking about it too, because these rich people are known to be into some really ridiculous shit. Like jerking off a camel, that was not a hyperbole. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, these are things that women have reported that they had to do.
Yeah.
Like, get shat on, jerking off camels, eating feces, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's because the more money you have, and now recently, looking wealthy has become very ubiquitous. Get the word. Take a shot every time I say ubiquitous. It's become very ubiquitous. And the rich, the actual wealthy, right, the old money, they're trying to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
So when everything becomes more accessible and rich people are running out of things to own, to make luxury a thing for them,
Right.
they will naturally move to the one thing that has the most intrinsic value and own that, which is people.
Right.
So if they can make you do whatever they want, that's the entertainment. That's the thing that, like, I'm ultra wealthy. I control even people now.
Right. Damn. No, it's very true. Very scary truth, but truth in and of itself.
It's hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
It's hard to come back from that. And because most of these spaces are owned and operated by men, it's so much easier for the women to get exploited.
Yeah.
Right. They're really young. They're trying to make something of their life for the reason I explained earlier.
Right.
And now you have like these really old, like 40-year-olds trying to get people like that just turned 18 on their boats because of aesthetics or whatever thing. And you're in the middle of the ocean. No one can stop anything from happening if they want it to happen. It's very dangerous.
Super scary. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is something that like we could continue talking about till we're blue in the face, like in all the different ways. It's even something that I was talking to you like off before we started recording of just like women's bodies and like the reproductive space and like how, you know, that's being like hugely commodified. And I just was seeing like surprisingly like a lot of like articles and essays written about that, like particularly surrogacy. I didn't like read too much into it. So, but just like that, the point being like, this is something that really you could hit so many different angles of life and you will find this occurring. And it's really unfortunate. And I think, you know, as you like are looking into this, it's like kind of, as we've been saying, doesn't feel as if there's much of a solution, or at least, you know, this is at least for this episode, a conversation with really no conclusion. Because it's just everywhere. Yeah. And it can be hard to, you know, wrap your mind around in a lot of ways.
It's definitely hard for me to wrap my mind around. And for the people that try and they try to make solutions, like the liberal feminists who have such a extreme reversal of what they feel to be the like components of the patriarchy. It's like I don't fault them for that.
No, I commend you for trying to come up with solutions and making efforts towards those things, because this is something that is like, it is deeply traumatizing and hurting women for generations and decades and centuries. And it's really unfortunate, because, you know, I would love to live in a world where, you know, humans would just naturally see other people as humans, you know, regardless of anything. But yet here we are, you know.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. Can you do?
What do we do? That is a open-ended question. And one, like we said, that we can definitely continue to talk about, like we said, we touched on earlier about how this just doesn't start or begin when you are 18 and of age, you know. It begins way before that, which is even more tragic and devastating. But
yeah, even like in media, right? The most common notion that you hear about is that sex sells.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not going to change because it's very effective.
Yeah. It's too effective for the powers that be. The
powers that be being the money hungry owners of things, right? And to the point where like it's so you're kind of like becoming desensitized to it almost, where like back in the 1950s, people were talking about how shocking it was to see like lingerie on a billboard. Now you can scroll on your phone and see half naked, like 15 half naked girls in a minute.
Yeah.
An insane thing to do. So it's like the conversation is being talked about and there's more attention being drawn to it. But at the same time, we're getting like further and further from irreversibility.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Down this system, because porn and glorifying all that stuff, it's the author of this book, she described it as like I forget the term that is, but there's like a term where like if you watch porn too much, you stop being able to have sex with real people.
Oh yeah.
And she's saying that culturally we're like that now.
Wow.
Because
what a statement.
It's hard to view people as people, women in particularly, and it's hard to get people to stop doing that. So it's like double.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're becoming impotent in that way, which is really sad. And like as long as sex sells, it's going to be hard to reverse that. And sex has been selling for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Quite a long time, because the consumers that be like watching it.
Yeah.
And the only people that suffer are the people that are being exploited by these systems. Men and women alike. Men and women alike. So where do you go? I don't know. No solutions.
Yeah. Really, really an open-ended end to this episode for sure. But hopefully one that gets everyone's brains turning, thinking.
It definitely has my brain turning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's that.
Yeah.
I guess that's that. Hope you guys like that. Let us know what you think about something. What are they thinking about? They're thinking about something. Come on, Renee. Help me out. Help me out, girl. God damn. Your laughter is not helping.
I like completely going blank. I don't know.
Tell me what you think about the commodification of bodies and how that like shows up in your life as something as simple as, if you're a girl, do you find it empowering to post yourself on the internet? And if you're a man, do you find that Tinder is like a shopping list of available bodies for you to procreate with? Let me know. I'm so curious.
Actually am curious for like the men out there, like in what ways they feel as if like they are like counteracting like this, the commodification of women, like specifically, and in what ways like you feel like in your life that you are like not upholding this like system. Because I do think there's a lot of people, a lot of men in our generation who say like, oh, I know, I totally respect women. I am, all the feminist things, but what are we doing, when you're with your bros and we're talking this sorts of way or that sorts of way.
Locker room talking on
the locker room. Don't even get me started. Some locker room talk I can understand, whatever.
Like
yeah,
what?
Like you're going to be like, if you're just gonna be like, yeah, bro, like, damn, she was so hot, like blah, blah, blah. But I cannot get behind like, say, if you're like, have like some basic like morals, standards, a value system.
Like hold yourselves accountable.
If your bro is cheating on his girlfriend with multiple women, maybe not being like, wow, dude, that's so sick, because that perpetuates.
Nah, fam, bro code. What do you mean?
Nah, fuck bro code.
Hey, yo.
Just for that. We need,
that's egregious.
I'm so dead serious.
Crazy.
When it comes to like being like, oh yeah, bro, so cool, like totally fine that you're cheating on your girlfriend with multiple women. That and
maybe
and
not.
that in that way, that is like a perfect example on like a very individual level in ways in which we are allowing for like the objectification of women to continue. Because at the end of the day, when you're saying it's okay to be cheating on your girlfriend with all these other girls, you're seeing women like as these bodies. Yeah. Exactly. So anyways, I am very curious about that, because it's not just, this is all like a collective responsibility. I think that we as people need to start seeing it's not just a woman problem. It's a man problem as well. Because why would you want to live in a world where you don't see a human as a human? Think about that. That's what I want to know. I'm curious.
Well, yeah. And we'll definitely touch on some other things in this realm. Like you said, huge conversation, more to talk about. But that will be for next time.
Yeah. Besides that, like and follow us on all of our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I got it all.
Good job.
Subscribe as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh gosh, I
We
always
should
forget one.
you should I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But that's all for today. And at the end of the day, I'm Jem.
And I'm Renee.
And we're the Intellectuals, signing off until next time.
Bye.